Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Well, today we have entered day 214. Yes, 214 of the ongoing Russia-Ukrainian war. And we're just going to kind of look at some headlines that are taking place within the context of the conflict. Now, on Newsweek is reporting, among other sources, that Zelensky has announced that Ukraine has received the National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile System, the NASAMS, NASAMS, and what that basically is the AMRAAM, the U.S. Air-to-air Beyond Visual Range Radar-Guided Missile that is just used in a ground-launched mode, and a very advanced system. And it looks like the Ukrainians have them, and in all probability have had them for a period of time, given the Ukrainians' continued ability to ward off Russian tactical air assets over Ukraine. Uh, Zelensky was on Face the Nation. I didn't get to see the program, but can anybody tell me, did was Zelensky wearing the olive drab T-shirt on Face the Nation? Anybody ever wonder why he continues to wear the olive drab T-shirt, even when meeting foreign dignitaries? He's in his olive drab T-shirt. It's propaganda. It's a game. Does he need to wear a olive drab T-shirt? No, he does not. He could wear a suit, tie, and just like every other foreign dignitary who comes to Kiev. But this is the games of state, and he's trying to portray the role of a wartime leader by roaming around in his olive drab T-shirt. But let's go back here and let's look at some other headlines that are going on, because we're starting to see a theme here. Let's see here. This is the Independent. Vladimir Putin no longer bluffing about nuclear threats, Zelensky warns. Nuclear rhetoric heats up between U.S. Russia as UN marks Weapons Eradication Day. What else do we have here? U.S. announces $457 million civilian aid for Ukraine. Yeah, let's just keep those printing presses rolling. See, the British pound is now on par with the U.S. dollar. Very interesting. Let's see here. And yeah, it's Lushenko tries to console Putin amid mass flight of Russians. That's from the Voice of Ukraine. When Mozart teases Wagner, U.S. volunteers work to save lives in Ukraine. That's not all they're doing. What's happening on Russian borders as Russians flee the country, and where is it happening? So a lot of coverage on the mobilization aspect of what's going on. A few thousand people have been arrested. But, that happens here in the United States. I mean, we saw the same types of things happening during the Iraq wars as well, especially the post during the 2003 invasion. Russian draft dodgers queue at Georgian border. Arson attacks on enlistment offices spike after Putin starts mobilization. And it goes on and on and on, and yeah, but we'll continue to see that as Russia continues to mobilize. I would think at a certain point they're really going to crack down on that sort of dissent as well. But if we look here on the actual battle map of what is happening on the ground, you can see right in this area, just to the northwest of Severodonetsk, the Ukrainians have established a salient across the Oskil River, this area here, and they have solidified their hold east of this river. this fairly significant terrain feature. They conducted bridging operations. Obviously, they had to conduct bridging operations and or repair the bridge to do what they've done here offensively. And that really kind of leads me to ask the question, how? How is the Ukrainians able to do this? Why isn't the Russian Air Force taking proper measures to prevent Ukrainian forces from crossing and using its own bridgeheads? I mean, it's a valid question, and I think as most of us watched this war start, and we watched the lead up, we analyzed Russia's capabilities, or what we thought their capabilities were, we would have assumed that the Russians would be able to negate any sort of major offensive operations by the Ukrainians, especially crossing rivers. I mean, these are operations that have to be planned, well prepared for. They require logistics, and they're able to do it. And the Russians don't really seem to have a response for it. Now, is it more difficult for the Ukrainians to conduct some of these bridging operations than it is for the Russians? Maybe, but it also looks like the Russians are challenged in their own way in terms of conducting some of these operations by HIMARS and other systems that the Ukrainians use as well. But the Russians have an air force, and they've got a bigger army as well. And you would think that they would have been able to prevent this some way, but obviously that has not taken place. And they've just not crossed at one point; they've crossed at multiple points. So just north of Servetsk here, they've crossed here, and this is the Oskil River. They've crossed near Kupiansk. We're still trying to. We still hear there are Russian forces in Kupiansk, but and that kind of goes back and forth with Russian holdout forces in that city, and that is kind of what we're seeing there. Again, as we continue to move up north along the Oskil River, they've crossed here as well. Was it a fact that these bridges were just not blown? The Russians retreated before they could blow these bridges, but at the same time, the Russians have the capability to take down these bridges, and I just it's difficult to understand. But anyway, that's kind of what's happening in the far east of the ongoing conflict, and in the southwest, Kherson. Again, as I had thought that this probably was not going to result in the Russian capitulation of its footprint west of the Dnieper River. The Russians still control it. Obviously, there are multiple salients where the Ukrainians have pushed forward in an attempt to drive the Russians out. There's still this hypothetical talk of the Ukrainians trying to get Russian forces to capitulate. But with these new laws that Russia is now instituting in terms of draft dodging, retreating, surrendering, what have you, there's probably going to be more implications for forces that retreat and do not attempt to continue to fight the Ukrainians. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there on that front. But again, I've been talking about this for a while in terms of the nuclear rhetoric. It would not surprise me if nuclear weapons are used in this conflict. There's just never been a case in human history where we have not used weapons that we have developed as a species, humans. We obviously it's taken a while, and we've only used nuclear weapons once or twice. World War II against the Japanese, but that's just a flash in the pan in terms of weapon systems. From the 1940s to present day, it's not a long time. And right now, I think we're probably looking at an environment where desperation may come into play. And if the Russians are not able to get things in hand, if we see these continued plebiscites that take place where Russia claims these areas as their own territory, and we know Russian doctrine, we know what the requirement is for a release of nuclear weapons, and if Putin is pressed, I firmly believe they will use a tactical nuclear weapon. I think first there will be an above ground test that will probably shock the world or really get the world's attention. And then again after that, possibly. But God forbid, we'll see. And in all probability, there'll be smaller, probably a zero 0.5 kiloton or something in that range, very, very small. Everyone associates nuclear weapons with these large city-killing instruments of war, but that's not what they are in all cases. You do have very low yield nuclear weapons that can be effectively used on the battlefield without risking huge amounts of radiation. But the use of a tactical nuclear weapon, even though many, many times less severe in terms of the ones that were used, maybe the 14 kiloton weapon system that was used in World War II, and a bit above, I think there was a 14 and a 30 kiloton. I'm sure someone will correct me. But in all probability, the Russians would use very low yields, 14 times smaller than what was used in World War II. So again, 0.5 to 1 kiloton devices. Who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us and use something bigger if that happens. But that's kind of where we're at. And the rhetoric continues, and the economic conditions continue to worsen across the globe. I mean, look at the U.S. Stock market. Let's see, what does it look like today? What are we at? Let's see here. Yeah, Dow is down 250 points. S&P 27 and the Nasdaq down 20. So not good, not good. Anyway, that's what I have for today. We will continue to monitor, report, and bring you more content for your consumption. Thanks for joining us, and as always, have a good day.